we did not achieve 100% because all employees did not, 70% of employees were trained. Next slide, please. The performance against predetermined, the 2021 quarter-on-quarter performance unaudited shows the achievements per quarter, but also indicates the very same program that I talked about at 70%. Next slide. Then the strategic plan 2021 to 2025, the strategic plan as tabled with inputs from the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation has not changed. And next slide, please. So our mission, vision, and values is just to contextualize our work time and again, that we still operating under the vision of mutual respect amongst diverse cultural, religious, and linguistic communities. Our mission is to foster rights of cultural, religious, and linguistic communities to freely observe and practice their culture, religion, and language. That is a very serious mission for us. And our values, as the chairperson was talking about the culture, the character of the organization, our values are now defined. Before we never defined them. Now, when we look at transparency, we are saying we are very much committed in being open and honest in conduct at all times when embarking in organizational operations. We seek to be professional at all times when we do our work, but also our turnaround times in terms of how we give service to the people is our interest, while we take the responsibility for all the decisions and engagements that we do in our work, and always committed to and firm adherence to the code of conduct and ethics as prescribed by the organizational policies and procedures. And this also talks to the internal controls that the chairperson alluded to in the introductions. The issue of impartiality, committed to unbiased, fair play and conduct in all the dealings with colleagues, partners, and other stakeholders in the workplace. We always want to be trusted and trust our stakeholders when we do our work. Because we are committed to giving respect to each other and the partners and the stakeholders with appreciation and dignity at all times. So these values are indirectly talking to the cultural change of our organization, something that each and every employee is to internalize in their operation. Next slide, please. Our impact statement, we seek to find and to create an enabled environment for cultural, religious, and linguistic communities to coexist and participate in the development of peace, friendship, humanity, tolerance, national unity on the basis of equality, non-discrimination, and free association. This impact statement, Chair, I think it's very much relevant now in our communities in the country. And that's what we seek to achieve in terms of the attitude and how people are able to relate to one another in the country, of course, focusing on culture, religion, and language. Next slide, please. The programs are the same that we are going to utilize for achieving our targets, and our outcomes did not change as we presented them in the SREC plan. It's good corporate governance, which talks about values, sound financial management, seeking strategies to eliminate irregular expenditures, wasteful and fruitless expenditures, and administrative support in line with legislation. Strengthened conflict resolution and legislative reviews to promote and protect cultural, religious, and linguistic communities, so that at least we can resolve as many conflict amongst our people, so that they can be coexistent. They must be able to live together. Effective, structured, and informed communities on cultural, religious, and linguistic rights matters is our emphasis in terms of our face-to-face engagement with communities when we raise awareness about their cultural rights, religious rights, and language rights. Research recommendations to inform evidence-based policies and sustained resuscitation of diminishing and diminished community heritage. So our idea is that every research that we make must be able to have an impact to the legislations that has to do with culture, religion, and language, either in municipalities or at legislatures or even in parliament, wherever there is a legislation. Sometimes even policies that are like workplace-based policies, we should be able to achieve that. And this already in the issue that just happened now of the cultural practice that was challenged in Midrand recently. We are working on this to make sure that we are influencing the cultural policy within that very same organization, so that we avoid similar, situations. Intensified communication, marketing, and knowledge management systems need to communicate at all times, whatever information that we do. And I'm sure, Chair, you are able to see with other members how much we try within our own limits to communicate whatever we are doing within the Commission at all times. Next slide, please. So the outcomes indicators, baseline and 5-year, the indicators, of course, is to make sure that we have unqualified audit opinions. We have zero fruitless, irregular, and wasteful expenditure. We handle all the complaints that we receive. If we do 80% annually, we think we'll be doing something better. Of course, it is because sometimes we carry over cases and we receive new cases, so that 80% is inclusive of both. And 100% of reviewed bills that are before Parliament, so that we are able to influence legislation and make all legislations related to culture, religion, and language to be sensitive to those issues. Number of municipal metropolitan bylaws will be reviewed, and this time some of them is to look at the fireworks and cemeteries kind of bylaws, because we do receive lots of complaints around that from the municipalities or from the communities. We will continue to do our engagements, public education awareness to communities, but also still aim to produce about 20 reports in 5 years, and 20 reports on communication, marketing, and knowledge, as we are talking about rebuilding our infrastructure and make sure that we use it as an effective tool for communication as well. Next slide, please. The annual performance plan 2021, same programs that we've highlighted are still in place. Next slide. The targets, we are saying that in 2021, we'll be able to try by all means to achieve the targets that are on my extreme right. 4 annual targets, 1 annual target, but it has to do with reports and recommendations for increased oversight, reporting, evaluation, and coordination. That is the work of the commissioners themselves through plenary and section 22s, and they do that kind of work, and then we compile reports. And then, of course, we need to follow the other processes like your performance agreements. We were found wanting in the previous year in terms of the first, signing them on the 1st of April, others being signed on the 5th of April. The auditor says, no, we should sign all of them on the 1st of April and not on the 2nd of April. That we've worked on. And then approved workplace skills development is a continuation of what I've talked to, and approved and effective internal controls to resolve internal and external audit findings. So we take the concern of the chairperson very seriously, and it's part of our plan to improve those internal controls. And of course, report on risk management strategies that we are going to implement to assist us operate effectively and efficiently as an organization. Next slide, please. Administration program continues from the previous slide that will produce reports and recommendations for increased oversight, as we have indicated, and a number of quarterly reports as we do, and of course financial statements, because it has been a challenge that sometimes we produce them a little bit late, but we're working on that. And for some consequence management are applied in that regard. Number of quarterly internal audit reports per annum, so that we are able to have quality assurance to the work that we do as a commission. Next slide, please. The last slide for administration, I think, talks to what I've covered, issues of performance agreements, that we strive to do 100%, that we should not be found wanting. And that this time we want to have 100% workplace skills development for staff members, and 100% of all queries on internal and external audit findings resolved at all times, so that we can also obtain a clean audit and reports on implemented risk management strategies. Next slide. When it comes to legal services, Chair, and conflict resolution, this is a very, very important department as well, because it handles the complaints that we receive from different communities in the country, culture, religion, and language related conflicts, and they are assisting us there. So we're saying, as I've summarized, if we can do 80% annually because of the nature and complexities of some of the cases we deal with, we will be very happy. And then 100% of response to all legal advice and opinions. Sometimes we need to take some of these cases to court. So we plan to, achieve all within the time frame advice, to give all advices within the time frame that is required, even for court purposes or for the commission itself, and review 100% of bills before Parliament that impacts on the money of the commission. So we do check even the website of Parliament and municipalities to try and make sure that we intervene with the issues that are related to culture, religion, and language. As I've said, in the financial year, in the current financial year, we are going to concentrate on the bylaws of fireworks and cemeteries, and we are planning that perhaps we will do 16 in terms of the targets. Next slide. So on the medium-term performance targets, again, for legal services, just to show how the targets will be increasing. But for the first one, output, indicator is 80%, and then 100% all over, and then 16, as I've talked about in the previous slide. Another slide, please. When we come to public education, Chair, we intend to do about 25 engagements with communities and do also 20 public educational campaigns. As you have indicated, all these engagements, they take different shapes and forms, some seminars, some dialogues, some workshops, and so on and so forth. And of course, as the chairperson said in the introduction as well, we are planning to update and maintain our database so that we can be the first call in terms of how many organizations, religious organizations do we have in the country, how many cultural organizations do we have in the country, and also the language organizations or institutions, including the experts that we have in the country, perhaps the provinces, so that we can be able to have them in our database in case we need advice or we need them to help us, achieve our mandate with readily available advices. Next slide, please. So this one is just a summary of the medium-term target, as is reflecting how education will increase its targets. So for this year, we said 25, and then in the next year, 30. So we're increasing by 5, and the third year will be 35, while public educational campaigns will be 20, 25, 30, so increasing by 5. And the database is just a matter of maintenance and making sure that it is intact at all times. Next slide. Now, research and policy development sticks to the targets of 4 research reports. They are not increasing every year because we do understand the complexities in which research takes place. If you rush it, sometimes it's something that can be challenged, and you will have not followed all the processes that are required in terms of research. So we really give them time that if they produce the 4 research per year, that will be fine, 1 per quarter, and then that can be shared and recommendations can be implemented by the relevant bodies and institutions. Next slide, please. Just a summary of what I was talking about, that is not increasing. The next slide. When it comes to communications, marketing, and IT and linkages, we are saying this time we will be able to implement our internal and external communication and marketing strategy. And while we do that, we must be producing reports on the implemented, internal and external communication and marketing strategy. And then the next one is the issue of stable and secure ICT environments that meets all functional needs of the Commission and its strategy. As we have a very poor IT infrastructure, we are working on it so that it can come to a level where it adds value and supports, the needs of the Commission in terms of our mandate. So we want to request that there be reports produced at all times when communications and marketing is engaged in its work, so that we can be able to measure the achievements. The last one would be the reports of activities on social media platform per annum, because there's a lot of tweeting and so on and so forth that goes around on our issues, and we should be able to compile some reports so that at least we are able to gauge ourselves and see how impactful these instruments are in terms of the work that we do. The next slide. Just a summary of what I was talking about, medium-term targets. The targets are not increasing. They are just like that, as was reflected in the previous slide. Another slide, please. The issue of capacities and capabilities project. Chair, we have started what is called trying to align the structure to the strategy as a vision of the new team of commissioners that came in 2019. And that process we've started, and once we have concluded, a full report will be given, presented to the portfolio committee. But for now, what I can say is that we have managed to review, the consultant managed to review the legal framework, and they are at about 98% as we speak. And then the human resource updates, if I look at my other notes, they are somewhere at 75%. And review and update of job profiles in the organization, they are at 98%. And update strategy, plan and organizational structure, they are at say 95%. And the issue of conducting skills, they are at 98%. And ICT and process review, they are at 75%. Next slide, please. And the staff matching is at 95%. And then the project recommendations at 98%. So they are almost done with the project, and we're expecting that not so long they will conclude and give us a final report. Next slide, please. This is very, very important, Chair, this project, because then it will be able to also place some skills under the circumstances at places where they are needed most, so that we can maximize what we have in the organization. Now, next slide, when it comes to medium-term expenditure framework, economic classification, the revenue for 2021-22, if we look at 2020-21, 46,283 was the revenue, and then 2021-22, 46,284 is what is expected. And the transfer received is 46 million and 46,046, it's better maybe to say it that way, 2020-21, and 2021-22, we're expecting 46,032. Of course, the projected interest there. And the composition of employees, comparatively speaking, from 2020-21, 27,097, and we expect 27,948 in the current financial year. When it comes to goods and services, when we look at the lease payments for 2020-21, 2,864, and then for the current financial year, we expect 3,191. Travel and substance for the previous year, 4,964, and then in the current year is 5,151. Just to share some of these audit costs, which is taking a lot of money from us as well, especially with the AG. In the previous year, it was 2,512, and then currently it will be 2,127. But the reason why perhaps this was reduced is because the audit, the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic also had an impact in terms of the audit work. So they had to reduce the scope, and the charge therefore went a little bit down. But the commission still feels that we are a very small organization. The fees that we are paying for the AG are a little bit higher, and we have written the letter to the AG to have a meeting with them to try and see if really that's what we need to pay just to satisfy ourselves, because we feel it's a little bit more. Next slide, please. The CFO can talk more on this when we engage. When it comes to program structure, the administration in the previous year, which is inclusive of a number of support things that we pay, it was 32,835, and in the coming year we expect 30,313. And then the program investigation and conflict resolution, inclusive of salaries, 3,003, and in the previous year, and currently it will be 3,207. Research and policy development, it was 2,785, and then 2021-22 it will be 300, and then public education 2,680, and when it comes to the current year is 2,857. Communications and marketing, it's 6,610 and 6,607 in the current financial year. The reason why perhaps communication and marketing is a little bit higher is because of the number of staffs that are in that department as well, but also it has to do with the reports that we need to print, because they are centralized to that department. Every report that we produce must be printed by them, but also some promotional materials that we also use for exhibitions and so on and so forth. The next slide, please. Outstanding and priority projects. Yes, the chairperson did talk to the issue of registering all cultural, religious, and linguistic institutions and organizations. It's our vision that we'll issue an advert or publicize the call to the local communities, a national print media, digital platform, and website, so that they can all, register with the commission for us to be able to know how many religious institutions we have in the country, cultural and religious bodies that we have in the country. That will be quite helpful for us, but also at least for the country to know the statistics. Of course, the software to be built on which communities will register remotely. We are saying that when we do these promotions, they should be able to register wherever they are, and we're supposed to capture it through our IT infrastructures. That's why we are upgrading our IT infrastructure currently. The Commission is in the process of developing educational material on culture, religion, and language, which will be used to raise awareness on community rights, but also to empower communities to be able to resolve conflicts. We are reworking the strategy in terms of how we train or give information to our communities in terms of raising awareness on cultural, religious, and language rights. And the only way we can do is to have programs that are really focused in terms of the attributes that makes the Commission, for instance, your tolerance, your issues of peace, national unity, and so on and so forth, so that at least the message that we give and encourage people is to say that we need to be able to live together, although we are different in terms of our race, in terms of our backgrounds, and where we stay, and so on and so forth. The next slide, please. Of course, the challenges I will not repeat. while we are doing our work, we are beginning to identify a number of gaps in terms of our act when it comes to how we manage community councils, how community councils must give value to the organization or to the commission. We think that we need to close some gaps there because as is now, there are other community councils that are a little bit abusing this platform in the Act to an extent that you find others now allocating residential sites, and we don't deal with residential sites. And they say, no, we are a community council of service commission. But we're on top of that. We're managing one or two of those that are doing such kind of activities. So amongst others, we may want to beef up our act in the process, and we are engaging the department in that regard. The Commission is engaging different institutions to share their office space. As the chairperson has said, I will not repeat that. I think he summarized it quite well at the beginning. And the issue of underfunding and the strategy that the Commission is working on currently cannot be said more than what the chairperson said in the introductions, that really they must, the portfolio committee must also perhaps have a plan on how they can assist us while we are also assisting ourselves in terms of fundraising. Next slide. Chairperson, in conclusion, we are saying that the business case will be presented to the committee once the capacities and capabilities project is finalized, so that the members are well informed in terms of the direction that the Commission will be taking around these matters. And the committee will be updated on progress being made on issues related to office space at all times and expansion of the Civil Rights Commission work in terms of being present in provinces, as the chairperson said in the beginning. The last slide, I think, is the conclusion, Chair. I mean, I think it's just to concluding remarks that the details of these presentations are contained in the strategic and the annual performance plans, and the results of the 2021 performance are preliminary. The details will be included in the annual report 2020-21. Thank you, Chair. I really took my bit of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, CEO, for the presentation. Can we then get members who want to interact with the presentation by the Commission? I'll check on the raise your hand platform. Number one is Honorable Brink, followed by Honorable Pritika Vanchava, followed by Honorable Kalipi. Is this the only three hands? Honorable Mpumza, I presume you are covered. And Honorable Direko and Honorable Butelezi. And had the hand of Honorable Mpumza is up now. Can you mute your microphone, CEO of the Commission, please? Muting me now. I don't know why is the host muting me. It's okay. Yeah, those are the 4 hands that I'm having for now. Can I hand over to you, Honorable Brink?
Good evening, Chair. My internet connection is not great, so please tell me when I am no longer audible, and I'm going to switch off my video feed.
I'll do likewise. Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the CEO and the Chairperson of the Commission for the presentation. One remark made by the
I think
Chair.
you need to switch it off now, Honorable Brink.
Thank you, Chair. I hope you can hear me.
Colleagues, can you hear Honorable Brink?
Yes, Chair, I can hear you.
Okay, great, Chair. I'm going to proceed I think I'm audible. Chair, one remark made by the chairperson of the commission during his presentation struck me as a little bit odd, and I feel that I need to perhaps just get more information about what was meant. And that is when the chairperson said that the minister had requested from the commission a database of religious organizations. And specifically, what the minister required was a database that had a comprehensive set of information, including assets held by organizations. I just have to wonder, Chairperson, is that the proper role of the Commission to compile databases of this nature and then to answer to the minister? I'm not sure if I misunderstood the comment, but it suggests to me that you know, it's just not something that I feel comfortable with a Chapter 9 institution providing a cabinet minister with information, including the assets of private organizations. Perhaps I misunderstand the comment. That, Chairperson, brings me to slide 35 on the presentation, dealing with outstanding and priority projects of the Commission. And Chair, I hope that I'm still audible. I'm going to continue in the belief that I am. And there it is, mention is made of registering all cultural, religious, and linguistic organizations. And a brief mention was made by the CEO when he made the presentation. I just need to understand, Chairperson, to what end will all cultural, religious, and linguistic organizations, presuming we can define what cultural, religious, and linguistic organizations are legally, to what end should these organizations register? And it sounds from what the CEO says, it will be voluntary registration, but you know, registration is usually for the purposes of regulation, unless I'm completely missing the point. And it would suggest that the Commission sees its role as some kind of a regulatory authority, which is in itself problematic in the sense that the governance and the rules of conduct of organizations, their internal affairs, in most instances already covered by the Companies Act. So if you're a non-profit company, you have to comply with the 312 odd sections of the Companies Act. And if you are a public benefit organization, you need to comply with certain tax rules. So it leaves you to wonder, what is the purpose of registering? Is it for regulation? Is it merely for information sharing purposes? And is it completely then voluntary? Can we please get clarity on that? And of course, if it is presumed to be compulsory and regulatory of nature, what would the legislative authority of the Commission be to do that? I would appreciate a great deal of that clarity. Thanks so much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Brink. And I hand over to Honorable Pretty Kavanchava before Honorable Mkalipi takes the platform.
Thank you, Chair. Let me welcome the presentation and greeting to our leadership, all protocol observed. Chairperson, I have a question to the Commission. My question is that on the meeting of the 20 November 2020, the Commission reported that the Public Service Commission was assisting it with investigating irregular expenditure amounting to 939.8 million due to an irregular appointment of an internally audit service provider. It was anticipated that at the conclusion of the investigation, consequence management will be instituted. Has the investigation included and the consequence management applied as proposed? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Pretty Chava. I think now that's the turn for Honorable Mkalipi. Honorable Mkalipi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I saw what you did there before me. I thought that I was number 2 from Honorable Brink, and you got me the chair. No, thanks very much, Chairperson. Thanks very much for the presentation from the Commission. I also don't have many questions as my previous colleagues, but I do concur with the questions that are posed, especially on the voluntary registration, Chairperson. I think it's not the first time that we wanted a clarity from the Commission. And if my memory serves me right, these many churches in South Africa, especially the one that also brings some troubles. I don't know how to call them, modern churches or what. We wanted to know what is the Commission doing in terms of ensuring that our people on the ground are not fall victims of such churches. I think the Honorable Brink's questions also alluded to that fact to get more clarity, because we raised a concern. I think it was during Indaba or when we interact with the Commission. And we know for a fact that there are some developments that also have happened after we raised those things, to say that what is the view of the Commission and what is the, in terms of the mandate of the Commission, in terms of those churches, ukuthi umuntu engavela avuke ekuseni nje athi usenesonto, and then sekuyaba sekuthiwa abantu abadla inyoka baphuza ipiriti abanye bayashawa. I don't think is a good story to tell. So in the presentation, the Commission spoke about the amendments of I think it's something to call something right. I can't remember, but I wanted to know if the Commission have submitted to the relevant channels the proposed amendments, and at what stage is this process to amend the Act, if they can share with us. Chairperson, when I was listening to the presentation, something just provoked my thought, because during the lockdown, Chair, many things has happened in terms of lockdown level 1, level 5, level 4, and the religious community is the one also being affected by the lockdown in South Africa. And in order to cap this spread of COVID-19, we also, through the government, also set to an appeal to religious leaders not to go and worship. But Chairperson, with members of the committee, you will also agree with me that in some of the instances whereby the regulations of COVID-19 were enforced, some committee members get injured in the process. And I wanted to know, because I have not even heard or seen the Commission come strongly about those incidents. At one point, there was an elder person who was also shot by police. And some incident, I think it happened in Sebokeng, it happens in Soweto. And so many incidents that happened when the church members were also attacked by police. My question is that what is the role of the Commission in all this? Because I haven't heard the Commission coming out to condemn what was happening in terms of being the police shooting those church members. We're not saying that those people were correct to go and flout the COVID regulations, but I'm saying now, how come that the police were treating them like this, even shooting them? So there are so many incidents. Of course, the commission will agree with me, but now in media, social media, in all platforms that we're supposed to see the commission coming very strong and comment about these incidents, I haven't seen them. So I'm questioning if you guys at a commission, do you have a department called media who's always commenting or taking interviews and going out strongly to condemn what the police are doing to the people? Because at the end of the day, those people who got injured, whether they are members of the church or they are not members of the church, no one's supposed to get injured the way the police have treated these people or these members of the religious community. So as a commission who have a mandate, who also act in terms of the constitution, where were you? I think we're missing your voice. The last one, Chairperson, I just want to get a clarity because it took us, all of us, by surprise, that saga of a person who was wearing traditional Ndebele tradition, who went to a mall, to a certain mall. I didn't hear the commission. I saw that everyone was up in arm in South Africa saying that no, that manager who was calling that mall, that is my mall. And it was people of South Africa who came to in defense of that person. I can't remember his name. But now I know there's a report from the Human Rights Commission who came strongly condemning what happened there. And I haven't heard the commission strongly opposing to what it was happening to that brother of ours in that particular day. And I remember very well, Chair, I'm not trying to boost or something, but even EFF of that particular region even went and closed the mall. But I'm saying we have an institution that is operating under the Constitution, who've got a mandate to go and also be out strongly about those things, because we are dealing specifically with those things that were happening to that particular individual. So now I just want to get that clarity. Do you have communication within department to defend your sector, or you don't have communication, or you have weaknesses in the communication department of the commission? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Kalipi. Can I allow Honorable Pumza to take the floor? Honorable Pumza.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Is that an effort to you?
Hello,
What's going on there?
where now? Chair.
There's an awkward sound from your part.
Oh, is that awkward sound still obtaining, Chair?
That's much better. What were you doing?
I was listening to Mkalipi arguing. Thanks. Good evening, Chairperson and colleagues. The Deputy Minister, Honorable Bapela.
How you're listening to me with a sound? Or you were putting that sound in order to avoid my contribution? What is happening, Chair?
Order. Maybe can you do it off record, the two of you? Proceed. Mpumza. Honorable Mpumza, where have you gone to? Colleagues?
No, Chair, shame, we lost him. Is that sound of mine?
maybe we shall allow the commission to respond to your issues as raised. Then, as and when he comes back, then we are going to allow him to have his bite too. Can we hand over to the commission to respond to the questions as raised by the colleagues? Yes.
Thank you, Chairperson. The questions raised by Honorable
Professor,
Brink.
put on your put on your camera, please.
Okay.
Sure.
The question
Repeat.
raised by yes, by Honorable Brink, and I think he overheard the word assets. And there I was just trying to give an example of the information which must go into the registration. Why do we have this? It's important to know because this is for information purposes. For example, when we have the COVID-19, some religious leaders wanted support financially. So it is important to know which ones can be supported on what basis. So this was only for information purposes that we should have as a commission. And when it comes to whether this is enforceable or not, the Act mandates that we create a database of religious, cultural, and linguistic communities, including experts, which you can call upon at any time to assist in the work of the commission. That's the first part, Chairperson. And I think maybe the priority projects, Mr. Mafaza will look into that one. So that's the issue. And when the request is made for information, which the commission has, that information is available for public use. So that is the understanding that we have. So we are mandated to create a database and register, but it's not to take away the responsibilities of other organs of state. For example, if we don't have the power to arrest, we don't have power to prosecute, but we have the power to refer a matter to the organs of state. That's our number one. Number two, Chairperson, the Honorable Chavan Chava, she raised an issue with regard to the 9.9 million,
Put that writing pad down. We can't see you anymore.
Oh, okay, okay.
The writing pad.
Okay. And I think this is the issue which the CEO will respond, because in terms of whether we have the report back, what the consequences have been with regard to that. When it comes to the issue of churches and the religious institutions that are causing problems, what the commission has.
Honorable Mkalipi, can you mute your microphone, please?
In terms of what the commission has been doing, we receive complaints from affected members of society. I can report to you that there are a number of pastors that one is serving almost 20 years, one is serving lifetime imprisonment. And there are cases now that are on. You may know that one of the bishops took us to court to test the veracity of our act, whether we're acting outside of the act or not. And of course, we won the case because we were acting within the remit of the act, so to speak. And the issue of amendment, we have already made some preliminary identification of areas to be made. I think it was even in the previous commission, and we have requested that we be assisted to streamline these so that the amendment can have teeth. In fact, the court case was one way of testing the powers of the commission in this instance, because some just felt, if you go to the commission, it's like, an ordinary conversation. There are no consequences. In fact, there are consequences. So we are there in the public domain. With regard to condemnations, there may be some condemnations that are not in the public domain, but we are really involved on the ground. Say, for example, there has been a woman who was banned, accused of witchcraft. We have taken that matter and ran with it, and assisted the community and the family and the police to take action against the perpetrators. We did that. We met with the traditional healers in their numbers who came to our offices, raising these issues. And we made sure that we addressed the matter beyond just this one person who has been affected, or this one family. So we are on the ground, and indeed we may have limitations in terms of the communication, but we are rightly there. The issue of Ntando Mahlangu, on the day in question, we're not there because the person responsible for communication was not well. I think was hospitalized one way or the other. So, but we actually took over this particular matter. We met with Ntando Mahlangu. We met with the boulders. We met with Mr. Jose, who was actually the person who caused the row over there by saying to Mahlangu, go and wear, because he did not understand that the way Mr. Mahlangu appeared. In fact, he was wearing, he was, in terms of the culture, he was okay. And tomorrow we are giving the verdict. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we are meeting the company. We are meeting Mr. Mahlangu. We are meeting even the person, the perpetrator, in order to give our verdict. So, and it was publicized in the media almost everywhere. And we took interviews on this particular issue. So I'm not so sure whether the media was able to take us further than this. And even in the way in which we took this particular matter as an educational way for people to understand the diversity of South African culture. And of course, in the preliminary findings, we did indicate also that the company did not have a policy on culture, did not have policy on diversity, was not able to train its staff on a number of issues. And of course, these are the issues that we're taking forward, not only with this company, but generally across the companies in South Africa, for them to be able to understand the existence and embracing of the diversity of South African cultures. And that's what I can say for now, Chairperson, and request Mr. Mafadza to fill in where I have not been able. But just maybe to close on this one. Part of what we're doing, we are collaborating with the Wits University to research on the impact of COVID-19 on the religious, cultural, and linguistic communities. I think we'll share this particular report once it's out with the portfolio committee. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chair.
CEO, over to you. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chair. I am just going to talk to the issue of Honorable Nchaba investigations in terms of irregular expenditure. Indeed, Chair,
Can we see you, Mr. CEO? Mr. CEO, camera on, please.
Not sure if you can see me. Are you able to see me, Chair?
But your mouth is cut. Can you go a bit up?
It should be better now, Chair.
We only seeing you and yes, that's how it should be like. Proceed.
Thank you so much, Chair. I was just going to give just a brief on the investigation by the Public Service Commission on the irregular expenditure. Yes, they've started that investigation. Interviews were concluded, and the investigators are working on the recommendations. The last engagement I had with them, they said they are almost done. They are just consulting on their recommendations as well. So anytime, Chair, we will get that report, and whatever recommendations they will come up with, we will try and implement them to make sure that consequence management takes place. That is the only point that I think the chairperson wanted me to add. But just for Honorable Brink, the whole issue of a database is to address Section 51J of Act 19 of 2002, just to be specific. And perhaps because he may not have it in front of him, I can just read J that says, we establish and maintain databases of cultural, religious, and linguistic community organizations and institutions and experts on these communities. So I think that's what the chairperson said when he was responding to Honorable Brink. Thanks, Chair. I think those were the only two issues.
So you have responded to all the questions as raised by Honorable Brink, Honorable Kabanchawa, and Honorable Kalipi. You think you've adequately responded to that? They are all adequately responded to?
Yes, I think otherwise it will just be an elaboration, Chair. Two of amendments, we are initial stages of looking.
Fine.
Yes.
I think Mr. Brink, Chair, raised an issue with regard to slide 35, priority projects. Can you deal with that?
It's exactly.
Honorable Brink.
It's exactly the issue of registration, Chair.
Okay. Thanks.
Not
Thanks.
Mr. Honorable Brink.
No, sorry, Honorable Brink. Sorry, Chair. Sorry, Chair. Sorry, my apologies.
Can you speak through the chairperson, Prof? Speak through.
Yes.
I know you are used to chairing meetings. You are being chaired today. Prof, mute your microphone. Mute your microphone.
I said my apologies, Chair.
Okay. I'm seeing the end of Honorable Kalipi and Honorable Brink. Are those follow-ups? Mute your microphone, the chairperson of the can I allow, is it follow up Honorable Kalipi and Honorable Brink before I allow Honorable Mpumza?
Yes, Chair, just a short follow-up.
I see your hands are up again.
Just a short follow-up, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Mkalipi, you forgot to lower it down, eh? Okay, Honorable Brink, proceed.
Thanks very much, Chair.
Honorable Brink, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I hope you can hear me. I'm going to proceed as if you are hearing me.
Yes.
I want to thank the CEO for pointing to section 51J, I believe, of the Act, which refers to databases, organizations, religious, cultural, and linguistic, however you define those organizations, and the authority of the Commission to compile databases. And that, chairperson, I think is quite distinct from registering organizations. So I take it from the answer that what is being referred to here is information gathering exercise, and it is distinct from any sort of a regulatory role, which I don't think the Commission has. The Commission is not a registrar of churches and language and cultural organizations. That authority does not exist. So thank you, Chair, for that. The only other thing I would like to ask in follow up to what has been mentioned about the pandemic, Chairperson, is whether the Commission has received any submissions from religious organizations in respect of the COVID-19 regulations. Have you had any complaints of a constitutional nature or suggestions of a constitutional nature about the COVID-19 regulations? And what have you done in this regard? Besides just telling people to, observe the current restrictions, has there been any input from religious traditional communities on what consultative process should happen around these regulations? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Brink. Yes, over to you, Honorable Galipi.
Yes, Chair. My points that
Proceed.
I raised earlier on in terms of the quietness of the Commission, in terms of the brutality that we've seen the police shooting ordinary church members. So I just not very much convinced about the responses. I still believe that the Commission could have been strongly condemned those police brutality. But my follow-up question, Chairperson, is that now, since there are people who have been brutalized by police, and there's a commission that is responsible for religious sector, are you making any follow-up in terms of getting justice for those people who are supposed to be your members to be serviced by the commission? Are you helping the church members who were brutalized by the police in order to get justice? Because no one deserves that a particular treatment from the police. Especially, I'm not saying that if you are young, you could have been brutalized by police, but it's very, very, very hurting when you see an old person like umama lo owayevelile kuyilento kwi-social media edutshulwa amaphoyisa in the name of a protocol COVID. So I'm interested if you have made any follow-up in terms of assisting them. The other question that I wanted to ask is in regards to the issue that I have raised as well, to say that the South African Human Rights Commission acted very quickly, and a commission yona come after Human Rights Commission have acted. And then because the same report that was produced by the Human Rights Commission on the saga that happens in that mall, I think it's a Boulder Mall, or I can't remember exactly what is the mall. So now let me just get a clarity why the commission came after the Human Rights Commission. Because
Boulders in Midrand.
In Midrand, yeah. Because when I was checking your report, it was saying the same thing that was said by the Human Rights Commission.
Mm.
But my understanding is that you are the commission, you are the a parliamentary portfolio committee who's supposed to be acting very quickly to each and everything that is not according to against human rights, to put that way, Chairperson. So I don't know, maybe they can, or the Chairperson can come back and convince me, but why are we not seeing you very active? I note what the chair was saying, that maybe your condemnation was not in the public domain, but I mean, even in the social media, you release statements, we read statements every day, even if it's not getting the media to publish it. But in social media nowadays, we don't even need the media to publish your statement. As the FF, each and everything that is happening in South Africa, we issue statements, but it does not even go to the media. But we get to know, good, okay, this is a statement that is being issued on every day. So I don't know. I don't know. I think you must go and review your medializing. There's something wrong with your medializing, because these things that I'm mentioning, Chairperson, I mean, the society wanted to know, Guti, what is the commission standpoint on specific things? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Kalipi. Can I allow Honorable Mpumsa to come in now? Honorable Mpumsa.
Yes, I feel Chair.
There's a terrible sound from your part, a very terrible sound.
That sound is there, Chair. Hello, Chair.
Proceed.
Thank you very much.
Can hear you, Honorable Mpumsa. Proceed.
Yes, I'm on, Chair. Let me
Yes.
first apologize, Chair, my attitude to that
You are fading. We can't hear you. You are fading. We can't hear you. And there's an awkward sound at your back.
Hello, Chair.
Maybe if you can close the camera, then it can be fine. No.
Hello, Chair.
Honorable Mpumsa.
Yes, Chairperson. You hear me now?
But there's still an awkward sound. What's happening with your microphone?
I really don't know what's happening. Maybe let me.
That's better.
It's better now.
Proceed.
Yeah, Chair. I was still saying that I'm apologizing because my gadget is just crashed. Chair, regarding program 3, that is on the effective and structured informed communities on cultural, religious, and linguistic rights matters. I think that program is very, very important when particularly aligned with the comments of Professor Sona, Chair of the Commission, around our concerns related to the fact that the Commission would not successfully do its work around public engagement and education when now that the chair of the commission was that they are successfully negotiating with other chapter 9 institutions so that they could have a print for effective engagement with religious, cultural, and linguistic communities. That would be in a positive direction. Chair, also regarding this issue of registration of cultural, religious, and linguistic organizations and institutions, I think that the commission is mandated by the law and the constitution in order to execute its own task of promoting and protecting cultural, linguistic, and religious rights of communities. Then, therefore, they had to work in order to realize that with communities. That's what I think. Which means to me, the project of registering this is very, very important because you can't work with faceless organizations that are not in your database. But my question in regard to that is that now that this legislation is voluntary, what would happen? What recourse will the commission take in the event that these organizations that this legislation is voluntary, they are not responding to the call to register into the database? What alternative recourse will the commission undertake? Chair, again, once more, on this issue of in the budget expenditure, there is an item there on travel and subsistence, and it reflects a significant reduction of that particular item, significant reduction budget on budget on that particular item towards the outer years. Does it mean that travel and subsistence will no longer be a cost driver towards the outer years? That's what the commission is saying to us. Again, Chair, the commission is indicating that on the targets, the chair has successfully completed, achieved all the targets as well as the CO. But finance and the support have not achieved their targets, particularly on training. Can therefore the CEO of the commission elaborate to us as to say what were the factors or independent factors that the finance and the support division could not achieve the full targets? Thanks, Chair. Diabonga, come to the stool.
You need to sort your gadget. I wonder if the members of the commission even heard you. You need to solve that issue of your gadgets. Then there is this issue that one wants to understand from your part, which we don't find it coming straight here on your side. Can I plead with you, Honorable Mpumza, to mute your microphone, please? Yes, okay. The issue that I wanted to raise, I was raising here, you look at all the APPs of the other entities in the Cooperative portfolio. They've elaborated on the district development model and their role in it. But looking at your APP, it does not place a similar level of emphasis on the district development model. Then the question that comes, CEO and chairperson and deputy chairperson, is there any role for the commission in the district development model? The other issue that is also of concern to us, as and when you read your APP, you note that you had to reduce your annual performance targets for the 21-22 financial year due to COVID, which has affected your operations severely to that effect. And then the question that one has is, how many of these targets are you going to reduce? And what does those targets relate to? When one reads the National Treasury's 2021 estimates of the national expenditure, the Commission will in 2021-22 receive an estimated allocation of 46.3 million. And then when one reads your APP on the other hand, in particular page 39, it states that the expenditure estimates during the 2021 financial year is that the CRL Commission will spend 50.548 million on the implementation of the programs. So the question is that already then you have a shortfall. And then one want to understand where will this 4.2 shortfall come from. So those are some of the concerns that one has, that would like to get clarity from your good selves, Chairperson, and the CEO and the Deputy Chairperson. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson, for the questions. Let me start off with the questions raised. I think one question raised by Honorable Brink on whether we have received, or whether or not we have received submissions from religious institutions relating to the consultative process concerning COVID-19. If my memory serves me well, and considering all what we receive from religious institutions, there has not been a submission to that effect. All the submissions that religious institutions made were directed to the government, so to speak. But we as CRL, we participated, for example, in the development of certain regulations regarding burials, in terms of the numbers and things like that. In terms of the traditional way of burials. Some of the suggestions were taken, some were not taken. But with regard to submissions to us directly, that has not happened. I think I can leave it at that. Second is the issue of brutality, condemnation, and what we are doing as CRL to members who have been confronted with this environment before or under the police. And let me say this, that we as CRL make a distinction between religious or community rights and individual rights. And this is very, very important distinction. For example, if you read the Constitution, section 31, it says no one person belonging to the cultural, religious, and linguistic communities should be denied the right to enjoy or follow his religion or culture or language. So our key element is really the protection of our communities when they are under attack as a consequence of wanting to enjoy their rights relating to culture, religion, and language. When a church in Soweto was attacked, we were confronted, of course, or approached by what we call godly governance organization. And we are now, as we speak, supporting this particular organization to assist, because they are part and parcel of ensuring that people must enjoy their religious rights. So we are there, but the issue of coming late is one which I think the Honorable Mkalipi has raised as a result of the communication deficiency or challenges. I think we take that criticism of ensuring that we need to up our communication strategy to make sure that we inform the communities about what we do. And of course, some of the things that we do, however noble may be, if these are not raised in the public domain, it may appear that the commission is not doing its work. And yet, indeed, we are. So we'll up the issue of the media to make sure that we up the game. But more importantly too, is that we have what we call media briefings, which from time to time on a daily or a weekly basis, release all our activities in the media. So we'll check that as well and see whether that is serving our purpose or not. Because we had hoped that that is the type of strategy or structure which will assist us to make sure that we are present in the social and the media domain, so to speak. When it comes to the issues raised by Honorable Mpumza, I have not heard, because of the problem of the system, I have not been able to get some of the issues that he raised. But when it comes to issues of travel and subsistence, and also training of staff, I'll ask the what you call the CEO to respond. And also the issue of the district development model. And I think it's important to make sure that this particular model is incorporated in the way we do our work, because otherwise we are acting outside of what the government is actually requiring of us to do. And he will be able to deal with the issue of the targets as well, which the chair has raised, and the deficit of 1.4 million in terms of expenditure. Those, I think, the CEO will deal with. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, if you can mute your microphone, Chairperson, so that the CEO must be able to respond to the outstanding questions. CEO, over to you, CEO.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think the financial
colleagues, can we hear the CEO?
The CFO will come
No,
in.
Chair.
The question of
CEO, you better get a better connection. That's better now. We didn't hear what you say and you said earlier. Can the CFO take those questions as directed by the CEO while he's sorting his connection?
Okay. Our saying chair will and answer those two.
CFO.
Thank you, Chairperson, colleagues, all protocol observed.
Can we see you as well, CFO?
Let us see, Chair.
Let us see you.
Let me click on that button.
There you go.
More or less. Let me just do it like this so that I'm more in the picture. Sure. Evening, honorable committee members. I do appreciate the opportunity to just respond to the two questions. The one is about the 46 in the presentation and the 15 million in the APP. The figures in the APP is before we have received the final allocation letter from National Treasury. So there's a correction that needs to be done in the APP. I will take note of it and I will make sure that we do that. The 46 million is the reduced budget that we received from the National Treasury on completion of the budget process. So the accurate figure is the 46 million. We will not have we are not budgeting for over expenditure. We will make sure that the budget is, as in the presentation, is limited to the 46 that is allocated to us. Chair, and then on the outer year, the reduction in the outer years, you will realize, Chair, that if you look in our staff expenditure component, because of the staff members that we do have in our employee. Obviously, we won't be able to just reduce the salaries or to lay off people. So the expected growth in personnel or staff expenditure is slightly higher than our growth in allocation. You will see that between 2021 and 2022, there's a 1,000 Rand growth in our baseline allocation. So obviously that will not absorb the growth in expenditure in respect of employee cost. And as a result, the operational expenditure becomes under pressure. So there is not enough money to share amongst all the things. So the only place where you can cut is then in some of the operations. Hence the declining figures in respect of operational expenditure and increasing figures in respect of staff expenditure. Chair, I will take follow-up questions if there is.
Can the CEO respond to the district development model question? It's not yet responded to.
Yes, Chair, the issue of the district development model, we had not yet looked at it. But perhaps one should be able to say that we be afforded time to go and look at the relevance in terms of our work as a commission. And perhaps when we engage, we'll give a feedback in terms of how we evaluated our engagement with that model. The other question, Chair, was the issue of training as to what were the factors that made support services not to achieve. Basically, it's the lockdown, Chair. Staff members couldn't find time to go for trainings until we devised some means of virtual trainings along the way. That was the impact that impacted us negatively in terms of achieving this target, the lockdown. How many of the targets are we going to reduce and what that relates to? With our engagements for public education, we are likely to reduce about 5 engagements with communities and perhaps deal with 20, but we're very cautious that with the new approach that we are also using of virtual meetings with communities, we may be able to achieve this target, but just to be safe, we're likely to reduce by 5. But also with legal services, already we used to operate at 100%, but now we reduce to 80%, and we think we should be comfortable in terms of handling those kind of targets. So basically, those are the units that we target to reduce, Chair.
Okay, I've seen the new hand of Honorable Direko.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is on the response by the CEO, whereby he indicated that they have not yet studied the relevance of district development model on their programs. So it's a bit concerning that a strategy that government has adopted in order to improve the lives of our people, where the communities are, and the CRL Commission is not yet familiarized themselves with that DDM and the relevance of it with them. So it is really a concerning, Chair. And the CEO is also requesting that we give them time to go and check the relevance of that. So when was the district development model adopted? And when that model was adopted, it was introduced to other district municipalities. And those district municipalities It's also the municipalities that have the constituency of the CRL, where there are people there, where the CRL is also operating. But to date, the CEO is telling us they have not yet studied the relevancy. So I find it a little bit discomfort on his answer, although he has requested that he be given a chance. And I think, Chair, we must just agree on the time frame for them to go and study the model and also come up with a approach to say, what is it that they are going to do in order to complement that same model? Because it's really not giving me comfort, that response that we've just received from the CEO. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Direko. Honorable Mpumza, have you sorted your sound issues, because we could barely hear you, or is it an old hand? Because the last time we could barely hear you with your sound issues. I'll advise, if it's not yet sorted, just write it on the chat group. I will be able to ask it for you. You will recall, Chairperson, we had a meeting with you on the 17th of November, together with the Contralesa and the National House. It was about the Eastern Cape holding their initiation schools in December 2020. I hope the Commission has observed what happened there, that resulted in 13 lives lost out of that initiation school that happens during the COVID-19. Has the Commission been able to follow up? And then would like to hear the Commission's view on that, in that respect, because you recall that there were assurances on our part that that there won't be any life loss. There are mechanisms that have been pulled there. Now lives have been lost there. We want to then have an understanding what is the Commission's comment to that effect. So those are some of the issues that we want your comment on. Over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Indeed, we had this meeting on the 17th of November, in which Amakosi in the Eastern Cape pleaded to have initiation schools opened for them. Before that, we actually wrote a recommendation.
Where have you disappeared to, Chairperson? We want to see
here,
you.
I'm here. Oh,
We can't see you.
Oh, yes. We, Chairperson, we made a recommendation even prior to that meeting, in which we set out the conditions or for opening initiation schools in the Eastern Cape. Because throughout the term that initiation schools were opened, many lives were lost. So we indicated first that in the event of a situation where an initiate dies, that school must be closed and the initiates must be taken to a school where there's a better facilities to take care of the, of the initiates. But unfortunately, those recommendations were not taken up with the Eastern Cape. In Gauteng, prior to the COVID, we actually, with the support of Amakosi and the municipalities, we had to close the school and suspend it for a while until the conditions existed for this to open. And we had the commitment of municipalities who were prepared to support the opening of schools with the conditions created for that to happen. So in the Eastern Cape, Chair, this is not new. And unfortunately, our recommendations were not taken to heart.
And so when your recommendations are not taken to heart, Chairperson, you want to tell us you don't have recourse as a Chapter 9 institution?
We do.
Is that the message that you are sending to us to say now we have given up? We don't have any recourse, but at the same breath, you are a Chapter 9 institution.
No, we do, Chairperson. It's not a question of throwing our hands in the air. It's just an indication of the fact that we have a protracted situation in the Eastern Cape. And of course, in the past, some of the persons who were causing death were arrested and imprisoned, because there was a guy who was actually released each time there is an initiation or season. He would be arrested and be released, but that person has now been arrested through our instigation. And of course, upon realizing that these recommendations were not taken up, we are now escalating it from the MAC to the Premier. And of course, we'll see what then happens. We're going to take up this particular issue because from time to time, the Eastern Cape is the only area where we have serious problems. Other areas, we work with them very cooperatively, and they also take the recommendations from the CRL Commission and they seek advice, which we offer from time to time. But the Eastern Cape is a place where we need to put our resources and efforts to ensure that one life lost is one too.
Okay. The follow-up question is to be by Honorable Jizoko on the DDM. Will have to be responded to by the CEO, I suppose.
Yeah,
Maybe Chair.
Chair, the honorable member suggested that we be given the time frame. I think we should be able to give progress. I don't know how, whether we could just write if we cannot be afforded time to give a feedback. But I think we should be able to do that within 3 weeks, Chair.
Chairperson, was there any other issue you wanted to respond to as well?
No, I wanted to say, Chairperson, is not a question of determining relevance. I think what the CEO meant was that we need to realign because we understand what the district model is all about. It's realign the model to our business plan, to our strategic plan, because this is the way in which government is seeking to do away with silos in order to have an integrated approach to development across the board, where we assist our people in various ways. So it's a collaborative model, which also has the same support we're doing among Chapter 9 institutions, but it's much more bigger than just Chapter 9 institutions. It goes to district, municipalities and things like that. So ours is to realign the district model to our strategy.
Then, in terms of your collaboration, Chairperson, with the other sector departments, are they coming to the party? Yes, you are a Chapter 9 institution located within the Cooperative portfolio, but there are other role players in terms of other departments that are expected to support your work. Because I don't see anywhere in your strike plan that has to deal with that collaboration with other sector department, including other government entities. Like the question that was raised by Honorable Mkalipi to say, on this matter, why did the Human Rights Commission being the first one to come before you come into the picture? Such things. Because I would have loved to see a situation wherein you do collaborate with this other entity so that you also have to avoid, if you want to say, duplication or the silos mentality as well. How do you go about that as part of your strategy?
Chairperson, the issue of collaboration is one which we have emphasized among the FISD group, which is the forum of institutions supporting democracy. It's very much alive, which is why I think when we speak about the possibilities of getting offices, we talk on the strength of the fact that there is something we've spoken about and we're agreeing about that. And here, the issue, Chairperson, we would have collaborated. I think I remember the chairperson of Human Rights Commission, we spoke and said, listen, there are matters that we need to collaborate upon. Once they are there, we shouldn't be going there. But at the same time, there are matters after they have looked into, they'll say, this one falls within the remit and the responsibility of CRL. So we have got a referral agreement among ourselves. But it's not to say we're not collaborating or we're not working together. We have emphasis about the competencies that each one of us have. So this is what we're doing, Chairperson. And I think maybe we need to look into that collaborative partnership realignment with the strategy, because that's how we have to survive integration rather than silo mentality, which would not help us. And we can optimize on the meager resources that we have, because they would be able to give us or to share with us what they would not be able to afford ourselves, but the work will then continue. That is the spirit that we have, Chairperson.
Okay. Honorable Brink, followed by Honorable Direko, and then it will be Honorable Buteles in that order.
Chair, my hand is not up.
Honorable Mkalipi. Is it an old hand as well? Honorable Mkalipi. Honorable Mpumza. This seems to be old hands. I've called Honorable Brink.
Sorry, Chair, I don't have any further questions.
Oh, there comes Honorable Hleza. Honorable Hleza.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Mine is very brief, Chair. I just want to, there are two concerning issues. One issue is the issue of collaborative efforts that the CRL Right Commission has taken, because the worrisome factor here for me is whether in terms of international cultural travel cooperation for the betterment and understanding amongst Africans, whether the CRL Rights Commission has done enough in terms of ensuring the tolerance, the cultural tolerance amongst Africans, The case in point being Mahlangu, who was wearing a traditional garment and was harassed by another Black person. And what then becomes the public awareness model, or the public awareness campaign from the CR Rights Commission, to then say that there is to then realize that there is a ultimate tolerance, cultural tolerance amongst us as Africans to begin with, let alone other nations that live amongst us, and the stigmatization of each culture, and how the narrative has been put across in terms of propaganda that has propelled since apartheid up until now. If I look at a Zulu person, I look at a Zulu person from a perspective of him being violent. I look at a Xhosa person being a person that is stigmatized as a trickster. What mechanisms has the department then, I mean, say the CR Rights Commission has done in ensuring that these stigmas do not obtain going forward? Because in a democratic space that is required for to thrive, they would need not to have a situation where there is a chronic intolerance of cultures, because it speaks to the environment, the inconducive environment that then obtains there. The second issue then begins to, which boggles me, is then, Chairperson, which is the last one, the issue of collaboration. Again, I don't know, I came in late, and my apologies. I'm sure they were recorded. I don't know if this question was then asked. The collaborative efforts in terms of development of the medicines, the traditional medicines in this country. What has the CR Rights Commission done in this regard, even to ensure that in difficult times like COVID-19, we are then empowered in both Western, but more importantly, African medicine? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the other one on the cultural tolerance could be a follow-up to what Honorable Mkalipi has already raised, but I'll hand over to the chair and the team to respond to some of the question also, maybe the emphasis on the one of the cultural tolerance. Over to you, Chairperson and team.
Thank you, Chairperson. And I think the Deputy Chair, if she's around, she will make inputs as well. Chairperson, I think these two questions are very spot on, because the Commission has now has realized that part of the impact we seek to make should be based on programs, because programs that could serve either on the television, on the radio, so that the impact is far-reaching than is the case now. So we are preparing these programs because we in the yesteryear we did not have issues of cultural diversity, unity in diversity, issues of peacemaking, issues that looks at the distinctive tapestry of South African culture, that this culture is one of our wealth, and therefore no culture should be deemed inferior to another. And I really welcome the idea that is being raised here, which is what we are doing on the issue of how do we realize tolerance in the sea of this tapestry of beautiful culture, but which through history, this particular culture has been bombarded, has been discredited, has been, it has lost its dignity, so to speak. So hence the issue of resuscitation of diminished and diminishing heritage, and that includes culture in its totality. So this is what we are working on, Chairperson. We have just, we are busy working with programs now, which will go into communities. When we go to communities, we talk about these issues so that communities are able to ask questions and to teach others as well as part of that impact. But the second issue, Chairperson, is also the effort with regard to the development of African traditional medicine. We have had a workshop, a webinar with the traditional African traditional medicine practitioners, and as well as the Western trade.
Where, Prof? Where's your picture, Prof?
Sorry? Sorry?
Your face, please. Your face.
Oh.
Show your face, Prof. Can I again plead with all of you, as and when you speak, make sure that you show your faces, please.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. So we are working on, we have had a webinar, a very successful webinar. And there are a number of experts on African traditional medicine. And we have also issued a statement in which we are calling for the integrated African medicine, Institute for African Medicine in our country, which will have interface between the African health practitioners as well as medicine or Western trained doctors. And we are trying to promote this as part of what must be ongoing, so that we have also raised the issue of other countries like India and China, where they have developed their own herbal medicine, which are being used in those countries. So we are on top of these issues, and the media has carried some of these webinars and the statements we released, and the issue is to ensure that we follow it up and with the health department, and so that we come up with a more sustained program on this particular collaboration. Thank you, Chair.
Professor Msoma, can you mute your microphone so that we can allow the deputy chairperson to take the platform? And then as the deputy chairperson is taking the platform, can she also put her camera on so that we can see her? Then it's ready to speak, but we can't see.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and all protocol observed. I just want to make a comment on the issue that my chairperson has just elaborated. The issue of cultural tolerance and cultural diversity. You know, it was just unfortunate that the issue of Mr. Mahlangu, Mr. Thando Mahlangu happened. And partly, I would say it was unfortunate that it happened with adults. And Mr. Maponyane indicated to the commission that he did not know that Mr. Mahlangu was wearing Ndebele culture. And partly the commission had to take the responsibility because we are tasked with the responsibility to educate. Now it is an education that we need to reinforce through collaboration with other institutions, the Department of Arts, Sports and Culture, if we can have those collaboration of educating our communities about the cultural issues. And the other collaboration that we need as a commission, perhaps like the CEO said, we'll have to look into how we tap into the district development model. The Department of Health. Recently in Gauteng, a situation happened where an elderly woman was banned by the community because they suspected she was a witch. Now, this is the cultural intolerance that we see amongst our communities. It is not only Gauteng. Even the Eastern Cape last month, about 3 women were killed due to the issue of they thought they were practicing witchcraft. Now, it is a serious matter that needs to be taken serious. As much as we think we understand our culture, we understand our traditional practices, there are still those who need the teaching by the CRL. And through the collaborations that we can have with other institutions, I believe, like my chairperson has indicated, that we need to strengthen how we relate with other government institutions so that we make sure that each and every person that stays in South Africa understands his and her own culture and the culture of others so that we can be able to tolerate each other. The issue of cultural diversity, I think somewhere, somehow we have dropped the ball, because there was a time where even at schools, the Model C schools, kids were allowed to engage, especially on cultural grounds. But as time goes, we see the issue of, yes, ma'am. Yes,
Deputy Chair.
yes, Chair.
Deputy Chairperson Feto, can you hear me?
Yes, Chair, I can hear you.
Seeing that the people who are watching these proceedings, they are saying they are seeing a dark face. They can't see you. They won't even be able to identify you because you have decided to stay in the dark.
See what I can do.
Proceed.
I'll use my phone to light myself up. This works.
Yes, we want to see you. Yes, that's much better. Go on again.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Yes.
The last point that I wanted to make on collaboration is that with the Department of Health, we have had several meetings with the traditional healers, whom were saying to us they want to participate as community councils, but they also want to participate when government call the organizations, but the issue is that they are not well organized. Now, what they wanted from the commission is for the commission to discuss with the Ministry of Health to give them an opportunity to re-establish their own council. So I'm saying this type of collaborations, if they can be strengthened, they will assist the most rural communities. Hence, I believe, and as a commission, we have agreed to take the responsibility to include the programs that will make the district development model a success. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, before I take follow-ups, there was a question. I'm gonna come back to you, Honorable Mkalip.
Okay.
There was a question that I feel it's not yet adequately responded to. It's with regard to submission that with regard to the amendment to the Act. I had your Prof respond since the previous commission, in which you were a member, not a chair. And you are waiting on the submissions that you've made. Maybe Deputy Minister Babella should be aware of this, or the DG must be able to talk to us, because the follow-up question is that, to whom have you made this submission? And then when you say you are waiting, what is the time frame? The person asked also, what is the nature of the proposed amendments? Because I didn't hear you saying it. We made proposal, yes, you said that, but you didn't deal with the issue of the extent of the proposed amendment, so that we are also on par. And then if you are saying it since the previous commission, I've got difficulties, because then it's like you are also going to finish your term. You having waiting on the submissions, that person who's sitting on top of your submissions, so that we're clear when we move here, because otherwise this question remains unanswered. And then Honorable Mkalipi, you were calling the chair. Can I give you the platform now?
Thanks, Chairperson. No, I wanted to check with the Deputy Chairperson, because what I was hearing was that they are taking a responsibility of things that they were supposed to be doing. One of the things that she mentioned is about what happened in that mall. And then she's saying that it's part and parcel of their program to teach or to educate communities about different cultures. And also she's mentioning another incident. I think he said a particular grandmother who was also killed because of those things of witchcraft. My follow-up question is that how now the commission, what is the time frame to address those such things? Because we can't afford a situation whereby the whole commission will come here and then just tell us that no, we're taking the responsibility. We don't want those things. We want a society that is very peaceful, especially if we have a commission that needs to act in terms of the mandate as a Chapter 9 institution. Also, earlier on, Chairperson, when I was asking about those disturbing incidents that took place during the COVID-19, I thought that the chair was saying that the sector didn't bring any submissions regarding their displeasure with COVID-19 regulation complaints. But that was not my question. My question was that during COVID-19, there were regulations that the government have put in place, and then some of the religious leaders and church members tends to oppose to those regulations when the country was trying to cap the pandemic. But in the process, those people were shot by police. I'm saying, as a commission that is responsible for religion, what steps did they take? What steps did they take to talk to police just to find justice for those people, even if even those people were against the COVID-19 regulations, but it does not mean that they must be treated the way the police were treating them. I'm saying to them, as leader of that sector, did they engage with the police, wanted to help those people, vulnerable people? Because at the end of the day, Chairperson, we can say those people belong to a certain church, but at the end of the day, those are the community members. They belong to a community of which some of them, they need to be protected by institutions such as this one. So my question was specifically to that. And I'm also being puzzled if the chairperson of the commission is going to say there was no complaints that were processed in terms of the submission, because even if you remember very well, at some point, I think it's the president of ATM who came to our meetings at one point, wanted to confront the commission, saying that no, I wrote to you, you never responded. But I know for a fact that people have been also taking you in your Facebook page, you never responded. So there's so much concern saying that you are not even acknowledging what they are putting to you as a matter of concern. So it just not augur well with us to say that even not a single complaint. Let's say those people are not clued up in terms of their rights, that no, if they were treated, they were shot by the police, especially that elder mother. I don't know where it happened, but I remember it was also on TV. And when umuntu omdala, a chairperson of the commission, ephume ekhaya ethi ufuna ukodumisa inkosi, but in the process is also floating the regulations, it does not mean that umuntu omdala must be shot by police. Someone must also find justice for that umuntu omdala in the process. That is my concern, chairperson. And I think that if we reflect on issues, especially when we interact with the Chapter 9 institution, we must also be faithful and be honest, because we are also reflecting on behalf of our people, who is also trusting that we are going to represent them. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. The Deputy Chair, can you be the first one to respond to the issues as raised? Then the chairperson will follow. With the regard to the legislations, maybe if the department.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Sorry, Chair. I just forget one point. Sorry, Chair. I'm very sorry.
Can we see you, Deputy Chairperson?
Chair, it's Mkalipi again.
Okay.
Just one point, Chair. I wanted also the Deputy Chairperson, if she can cover this point of AMA register, Chair. Because the money is spent in so-called public education, which is the one point that the Deputy Chair was alluding to, on the public education, but yet there is no register. If we can be clarified on that matter, why there is no register after the public education has been conducted? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Okay, over to you, Deputy Chair.
Yes. Thank you, Chairperson. I am not sure if honorable member would like to have the register or the schedule of the visits that were taken in 2020. But I must highlight that the issue of COVID, we had to adjust the way that we were doing our public education, because I think we all know that there was a time the limit was 50. Therefore, as a government institution, we couldn't call meetings for communities, because, in communities, when you call 20 people, 50 people will come. When you call 50, 100 people will come. So we avoided such huge crowds. But however, we have continued to have seminars online. We have continued to have webinars online to further the education that we are doing. Yes, I admitted that we may not be doing enough. I was saying we are taking the responsibility of the incident, not because we were part of the incident, but I was trying to say, if we were doing our education enough, Mr. Maponyane would have known that that guy is a Mundebele. And the way he was dressed, he was properly dressed in terms of the culture and tradition of the Ndebeles. But because that education cannot reach everybody, that's where he thought the man was not properly dressed. That's where I said the commission takes a responsibility, because we have not taken education through all the provinces of the country. But hopefully with the resources, if we are given enough resources, and with the collaborations that we are planning to have with the municipalities, we will be able to take the education and the awareness further to the local communities. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, can you respond on the issue of the legislation?
Chairperson, I would request the CEO to look at it, because I just responded the way I did, but it's an operational matter. Let me just check because I remember that we actually worked on certain aspects of amendment of the act. Maybe the CEO can take that. And then let me proceed with responding to the Honorable Mkalipi. And first, to thank you for raising this. As I indicated, I said we may have, or we have, difficulties in our communication area. So we are going to up that to make sure that incidents as they happen, we make sure that we are present and ensuring that we create the impact that is desired. And I didn't want to underestimate or minimize the gravity of the pain that is happening on the people on the ground. It could well be that some of the statements we make, they may not reach the what you call the public media, but I don't think I would want to continue belaboring at this point, because I think we need to raise more awareness, making sure that each and every instance we participate in, and just appreciate the thought that the Honorable Kalipi raised, so that we are present everywhere. The other issue has to do with the public education register. Indeed, whenever there is a public education engagement, there is a register, but that register does not cover the entire country. So the database will ensure that each and every corner of South Africa, where there is a religious, cultural, and the linguistic communities are registered. Hence the need for composite, fully developed database of CRL. Thank you, Chairperson.
CEO, can you respond on the issue of the status of the legislative amendment of the Act to the Act, please?
Thanks, Chair. I must also indicate that the commissioners were a little bit were not lucky because they were appointed, and before they even finished a year, there was a lockdown. And in the process, they are trying.
Professor Soma, can you mute your microphone, please?
In the process, they are trying their best to cope with the priorities that the previous commission had actually also left not finished. So in terms of the—
But CEO, we have been on level 1 for quite some time now, where things are happening. We've been on level 1 for quite some time now.
No, that is correct.
I've got a difficulty wherein now COVID will be used as an excuse of people not doing what they're supposed to do.
No, we've done what we are supposed to do, Chair. I'm just it was like an introductory remarks to the legislation, because it is entirely the responsibility of the commissioners to look at that. But then the gaps have been identified. We had started at some stage the engagements with Dr. Bester at the department, who is apparently the one who deals with the legislation. It's a matter of just Chairperson beefing up what the new commission has actually observed from the Act and allow the process that Dr. Bester had started at some stage to continue. The obstacles of why we did not move with the speed when it comes to legislation in the previous term is because there were contestations on certain areas, particularly when it comes to the registration of religious institutions. So that part, we're likely to leave it out, but the new commission must make a decision around it to be able to move on. other gaps that we have identified on the legislation has to do with certain sections that talks to the the commission convening the National Consultative Conference when the new commission is appointed and when they leave. We're looking at the practicality of the resources, Chair, and say, since the establishment of the commission, the National Consultative Conference in a term would actually be hosted once, because twice is, even once is a struggle for us to get the funding for that, and the DG is here, he knows about it. And so those are the areas where we would want to be realistic about them. The issue of 17 commissioners that are supposed to be appointed in the organization, is that realistic with the resources that we have currently? The commissioners also have to look at those kind of gaps that we are talking about. There are elements, Chair, of the community councils that we recognize that needs to apply for funding from the organization, from the CLR Rights Commission. Is that also relevant looking at the financial environment in which the commission is operating since its establishment? So those are the areas that we would want to look at those gaps and see how we can beef up those areas, because not implementing these requirements leaves the commission not complying in terms of the audit, and it puts all of us in trouble. So we must do something around that. So Chair, commissioners need that space first to firstly familiarize themselves with the work of the commission more intensively, but also to be able to understand what are the other sections that they would want to put as part of the package of the process of amending the act. And that's where we are, Chair, and it will happen. It may not be as fast as we may want, but in this term, I think the submission will be made by the department. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Do I have follow-ups, colleagues? Or you want us to end it here?
We are fine, Chair.
Okay, but the issue of legislation, as we've heard it, the previous commission was busy. The current one is busy. Maybe I must hear what is the DG say on that, to that effect, because that support comes from the Department of Traditional Affairs. Over to you, DG Dipof. Then I'll allow the DM to say something.
Thank you.
Yes, DG Dipofa.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chair and honorable members of the committee, the chairperson and deputy chairperson of the commission, the honorable deputy minister, our colleagues. Yes, just to confirm, I think in terms of what the CEO has said, because engagements took place with our team that is responsible for legislative drafting, because that's where the technical capacity was going to come from to assist with the amendments. And so the process was outlined, but the issue was just concretization on the part of the commission on those areas of the act where they wish for the amendments to be effected. And as the CEO has quite correctly pointed out, that work could not be concluded by the previous commission, and is being taken forward by the current commission. But from our side, we've said to our team, stand ready so that the technical capacity to take the amendment process forward can be undertaken as soon as we get advice on those areas of the act that the commission has agreed they would like to make propose amendments on. Thanks, Chairperson.
Deputy Minister Mapela, is there anything that you want to say in relation to the issues as raised?
No, thank you, Chairperson. You allowed the DG to speak without showing his face, but it's fine.
No, no.
He was on.
He was
No,
on, DM Bapel. He was
I didn't
on.
see
I
the
wouldn't
DG
deny
at
that.
all.
He
No,
was.
not
I
on my
don't know
screen.
what's up. Maybe he
No,
blocked you.
my apology, Chair, my
Maybe
apology.
he blocked you.
No, let me just say the legislative process obviously ought to take that route. At the level of the ministry, it has not yet reached us. And other levels, obviously, still gonna go to the department drafting team. But the issues that have been raised by the CEO, they were reflected in our interactions at the ministerial level, that there are certain errors in the legislation that they would want to see amendments. We are aware of them, but then the process of now submitting and then start engaging on the draft, obviously they have not yet started, but the team is ready, as the DG was saying. And as soon as that process starts, we'll definitely bring the submissions to Parliament through the Portfolio Committee. For now, Chair, I think they've responded to all the questions that were raised by honorable members sufficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, DM. Safe to say, one will say now you are towards to the end of your second year in office, Professor Msoma and the Deputy Chair as a commission. Remember, you were appointed effective from the 1st of July, 2019. And then on all those legislated issues, like the National Consultative Forum that you have to host, isn't that we are in the new normal? Though you say that you don't have adequate ICT infrastructure capability to transit effectively to the new normal way of living, working. I should think then you need to start to focus on that. And then I should think we need to get a correspondence from you to say, when are you going to hold that National Consultative Forum? Because if you hear what the members has been raising here, yours is about mobilization, education and awareness, dialogues, conferences, events, roadshows, and colloquium. So with that limited resources now with this new normal, I believe you can be able to do more. Because if the commission doesn't take its rightful place in society, that's where you find people undermining other people's cultures. Because I've asked the issue of collaboration with the Department of Arts and Culture. Maybe moving forward, colleagues, we need to call our counterparts and the minister to come in and understand also what are they doing in order to support the work of this commission. I think that will assist us a great way. But the other issue, like you have indicated, there are matters that also need collaboration with the police and all other relevant stakeholders. I'm still want to see that strategic partnership that you have developed with all those relevant critical stakeholders in the value chain with regard to the work of the commission. I should think that can be provided to us because I didn't see it coming. That include the aspects of the amendment, because if indeed the current legislation doesn't allow the commission to act, to function in its full maximum benefit, I don't know why should you delay that, Professor Msoma, if you're saying this issue started with the previous commission. And if we're not careful, even this one term, it will come to an end. That's why we're saying now, it shouldn't end with Mr. Bester, CEO. You need to then share with us the actual time frame, how we are going to deal with these matters of amending the act, if that needs be. So those are some of the issues that we will then follow up with your good selves. And then on these issues of the seminars and dialogues, can we finish with the proposed seminars, dialogues, any other aspect that the commission intends to take this financial year so that we were able to follow up and also be able to assess their meaningful impact to society. Because if this commission doesn't take a central role, that's why you see hate speeches, people bullying each other, others thinking that their religions are better than others. So these are some of the things that we need to continue to engage. And I will think, Chairperson, on the issue of customary initiation. I've seen something like a report, in particular from the Eastern Cape, wherein it seems as if at some point the children's life, the boy's life doesn't matter. Wherein you've seen a list of number of deaths that occurred over a period, maybe over the past 3 financial years, the matters that were supposed to be followed up with the National Prosecuting Authority for people to take responsibility. Is it based on the issue of role definition, who does what, or who's supposed to follow up on these matters? Because these are the matters that is also of concern to the committee. The beauty about it, when we were interacting with the National House last week, part of the president's commitment was that this committee is going to hold an indaba to the House, that this committee must hold an indaba on initiations. And that's where we also want to hear the commission's input. We are going to take all those matters as we've seen them around the numbers of death, also maybe to call the police, the NPA, the Department of Health, everybody who's involved in the value chain, so that we make sure that all these matters are then attended to. So I should maybe take this opportunity, Deputy Minister, to thank you and the DG for attending this meeting, including the DDGs from DTA that I've seen. I've also seen some senior managers from the Department of Cooperative Governance as well, to say that we want to thank you for attending the meeting, and then I think we can end it here for tonight, colleagues. Tomorrow we are meeting again to discuss the disaster management issues, in particular the effect of the Eloise that has struck some of our communities like Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Gauteng, and Northwest. So we're going to be discussing that tomorrow until we meet then. Secondly, let me remind the committee members, those of you who have not yet submitted your itineraries for the oversight that's starting on Sunday in Northwest, can you make sure that you contact Amanda so that everything gets sorted? I don't want the situation we're in while we're in oversight. You know our past experience on oversight, then members are not covered or catered for. So those are some of the issues that I find. Let me address it, because you're only left with tomorrow as a working day, so that all your issues then tomorrow morning you attend to them. Otherwise, I should thank you, colleagues, for your time and the continuous attendance of the meeting. Also to thank Wosheli and others from the parliamentary communication side. Shirley, you must bear with the members and our participants, in particular our guests. I should think maybe you need to organize something like a workshop in the whole cocktail portfolio, wherein we'll invite all the members of those entities, including the departmental officials who are supposed to present, so that you just do one consolidated workshop, because at some point I need to remind people, say, switch on your video, mute your microphone, because yes, these are some of the things that needs to be done, but such ongoing refresher course, I think, will assist. The meeting gets adjourned. Thank you, Prof and team. Thank you, DM Bapela. Thank you, colleagues. Good night.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good
Good night,
night.
Chair. Good night, colleagues.
Thank you, Chair.
Everybody.
Night, cheers.
Thank you,
Good
Chair.
night. Sure.
Good night, yeah.